And I often like to tell the story of my experience when I was learning to be a women's embodiment facilitator for women's holding women's circles with the Awakening Women team um, back in 2015. And we actually explored anger and how to meet anger and being having an experience of being a really angry child and really moving through and wanting to alchemize this really integral energy that I'd been walking with and I'd had in my body for a very long time. The practice kind of blew me out of the water. It was really extraordinarily not just magical, but the alchemy of that practice has remained in my body and I've built on it. And what I saw was within this practice, we had to embody our anger and move with our anger and its full ugliness and its full presence of what it is in our body in full expression. And we had to move towards, we were separated in two groups, and half of us were angry and embodying our anger, and the other half were meeting with presence that anger. And what I noticed in my body was that as I moved and embodied this anger, this full expression of my anger that had been with me for such a long time, is that it was when it was time to switch over and for me to hold the space for the other half of the group, and not just me, but me personally, but like the group of us, I found that really difficult. And what I noticed was that my anger, there was a power in the anger that was unstable, that was completely shooting out in all different directions. And I couldn't harness it in. I couldn't anchor it in. And it took me a little while to bring it in. And once I could bring it in, I was able to hold presence for the other half of the group, coming towards me in their full anger. And what I noticed in that was that presence was the missing piece with my anger. And once I started to move with presence and anger, I realized that in its true form, it's rage. And when you alchemize anger, it becomes, with presence, it becomes rage. And if you alchemize the rage, it becomes life enforcing, life fulfilling. It becomes passionate and creative. And in that whole exercise of practice of doing that with Awakening Women, I released myself from the pain that I'd felt from exiling my rage and feeling this kind of shame with my rage, my anger, my whole life. And it moved into this kind of more mature, unfuckwithable space. And now I can actually move with rage in a really present, responsive instead of reactionary way. Whereas my anger was always reaction. It was always firing. And now my rage is responsive. Unless it needs to be reactive. And then there's a much deeper sense of holding in my system in response to what's happening in that, in why I've had to react.